Welcome to Postpartum Unfiltered.
The podcast where we get real about what happens during the postpartum period.
I am Jillian,
And I'm Sarah.
and we are two doctor moms who were not prepared for what postpartum would bring.
By sharing your stories, we hope to spread awareness and allow other families to be more prepared for the time after birth.
Hello, and welcome to Postpartum Unfiltered. Today we have a special guest, Jenny. Hi, Jenny. Thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a mom of two beautiful little girls, quite the age gap being 17 months. So it's been an exciting roller coaster. And what else can I say about myself? I became a doula after many years of contemplating, but then after having my own births and my own kids, it really like pushed me over the edge to just kind of jump in. Um, yeah, I'm not really sure what else to share yet.
That's perfect.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Is there anything about your pregnancy or birth that you want to discuss as it relates to your postpartum?
Yeah, so I ended up having a very high risk pregnancy with my first daughter. Um, so everything seemed perfect, perfect, perfect. And then one morning, because I was a very anxious pregnant mom, I had a blood pressure cuff with me.
Hmm.
And I remember waking up and having just this debilitating migraine and trying to take something and took a shower and I just felt really off. And I took my blood pressure and it was 156 over 123.
Oh, no.
So I knew
Yeah,
that
Does
this is
sound right. Yeah.
very serious. And so that definitely and how my labor going, ended up definitely causing my postpartum experience to not be what I had envisioned, dealing with a lot of birth trauma, um, definitely some significant PTSD. My milk didn't really come in properly, and I couldn't have a letdown properly because you do need to be able to relax, and
Right.
um, if you can't, it won't.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so that was my first. And my second was very much a surprise. I was only 6.5 months postpartum using birth control, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh well,
Oh,
you're pregnant again. Yeah. So there was a lot of like, what do I do with this? Like literally, what do I do with it?
right.
And like, am I capable of having another baby? Because I did with my first end up having eclampsia and seizures
Yes. Oh my.
during and after my labor that was disguised as a panic attack.
Oh, wow.
And I only found out, I think it was like 8 months, 9 months after I had my second, that I did have eclampsia. So there's a lot of I guess I would say not logistics, but getting lawyers involved, and we'll see what happens. But unfortunately, it's very difficult to pursue malpractice cases in Maryland.
Oh,
So that's a journey and a talk on maybe another time. But yeah, so there was this with my second. I know I'm going like back and forth between pregnancies. I hope it's okay.
oh,
Sure.
that's
But
totally fine. Yeah, that's fine.
okay. So with my second, um, there was a lot there. I really didn't know if I could handle it. When I did deliver my first, because it was a vaginal in the end, which it shouldn't have been, but it was. I had diastasis of the pubis symphysis. So
Yes.
my pelvis separated too much.
Yeah.
And I also was unaware of that injury. So I was going on for 6 months, 7 months in like severe pain, not understanding why I can't walk and like why can't I hold my baby properly and just crazy. So
So when that was
Oh,
happening,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah,
when did you like, so, we had like the typical 6 week follow up. Were
Yeah.
you saying, hey, I'm having these problems. What can I do? Is this normal? And if so, what response did you get?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really shocking to me, and I knew something was wrong. I came in for my 6-week postpartum visit. I was really trying to nurse. I was really trying to do all the right things, but like I wasn't sleeping properly. I wasn't able to eat, all the normal things, but kind of on steroids,
Mhm.
where like I was, I thought it was just night sweats because you're hormonal. And then, but I would like grab my husband and ask him if I'm alive. Like some very jarring, like now looking back at it, especially after going through another pregnancy and postpartum experience, realizing someone should have helped me.
Mhm.
Um, and so when I did go to my OB, I told her that like I'm really having bad nightmares. And also like I'm having a really hard time walking. I'm having a lot of back pain. Is this normal? And she just kind of, well, first, I didn't even see her. She sent her nurse practitioner to check me,
Mhm.
and I had some significant tearing. So I was like, no, no one can just touch me. You don't know me. Especially, just having trauma, like I'm not open to that.
Sure.
So she came and I told her, and she said, oh, maybe a chiropractor would be good for you. You also had a really difficult labor. Sometimes a C-section is easier. And that's it. And then she said, "Oh, and your baby looks like she's, hungry. She's doing the like lip smacking." And I'm like, "Okay. Yeah, I don't think this is a chiropractor. I've been to chiropractors. This is like I cannot move. Like I
Mhm.
cannot like do anything without being in excruciating pain." So I decided to seek obvious. I mean, it wasn't obvious yet, but I decided I need to see somebody who can just x-ray me.
Mhm.
So I went to the orthopedist. And this is already 4 months postpartum because again, like I really didn't know and I had no guidance. And I called another time, 3 months postpartum, saying, something's not right. Like, do you have a recommendation for an orthopedist? And she did give me this recommendation.
Mhm.
And then I went and um, right away she was like, yeah, you have severe like diastasis of the pubis symphysis. Usually like usually your doctor should know that that happened to you. And I was like, okay. So the records were sent to her. Oh, sorry. Pause. Um, I did not know that yet. Um, but my doctor, the OB, knew my results before my follow-up visit. And
Mhm.
she never called me. I called and called and called. My follow-up visit was like, normal 2 weeks, 4 weeks after the initial one.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So then I called the orthopedist and she said, why don't you come in sooner? Let's talk about it. So that was 2 weeks postpartum. But my OB had these, these test results for 2 weeks already. And this is something to call your patient about.
Sure.
Yeah. Did they
Basically,
ever call you? Did they ever?
no, I
Wow.
was ghosted, basically, completely ghosted.
Wow.
That's
I
horrible.
called at least 3 or 4 times. I left messages, and the weirdest thing was, I'm trying to think when. I think it was like 8 months later. I ran into her in person with my husband,
Oh no.
and um,
She's like hiding behind a
I
phone dress.
Yeah.
I wanted to run away. I'm also already like 6, 7 months pregnant. I don't even want her knowing I'm pregnant. I don't want her coming near me and like my energy and my whole everything. Like
Yeah.
you ruined my experience. I don't want like you shouldn't see me
Mhm.
like like finally happily sort of pregnant. I mean, sort of
Yeah.
pregnant, but sort of happy.
Yeah.
Um, but my husband is like, no, no, like she's gonna look me in the eye because also this pregnancy and birth and postpartum affected our marriage. It
Sure.
wasn't just
Or-
like, oh, like, we were gaslit to think I just had a panic attack. Like he was like, no, Jenny, I really think like you were like not like you were like that looked like a near death experience. And then I couldn't be intimate with him because I was injured
Right.
and I couldn't like do anything. And of course, like the one time we did and on birth control, my little Sophie is here.
You wanted to be here.
Yeah.
She fought everything to be here.
Yeah.
You know, it was such a blessing in disguise because I would have been traumatized to this day. You know, my oldest is gonna be 3 in a couple of weeks. And if I didn't have Sophie and know that I could do it, which I can get to soon, like I probably would have still been in that headspace of like, I can never do it. I don't think I can ever do it again.
Right.
No.
But in the moment, being pregnant with her, you know, I am like an Orthodox Jew. So thinking about, do I have this baby? It was it was awful. And it wasn't awful because I'm Orthodox. It was awful because I just never thought I would ever be in that position to have to make that choice. And here I am, and it is for my health.
Yeah.
So it is a crazy story. We called, I spoke to my husband and I just said, like, his name's Jonathan, but in Hebrew it's Yoni. So I said, Yoni, like, I really I don't know. Like, I just don't know. Like, I don't want to risk dying. Like, I don't think that that's a good idea. Like, we
Yeah.
have a,
It's
I
not
mean, you're
great for the
scared.
family if
like,
you don't make
that,
it. Yeah.
that
Scary.
has
I
to
mean,
be
it's
more
totally
important.
scary.
Yeah. So we called our like rabbi, and he said this is like a question that is for someone that is specific to this. In Judaism, it's not black and white. Like, you can have an abortion.
Mhm.
There are options, and I think a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true. A lot
Yeah.
of people probably don't.
yeah, like before 40 days is
Mhm.
definitely allowed. Of course, like it's not ideal, and usually you don't even know.
Right.
Often that it could be that it's not even a viable pregnancy at all, and it's just a chemical pregnancy. So a lot of people won't do anything until anyway the baby, like, it's 6 weeks. But nonetheless, here I am, like barely able to admit to myself that I'm pregnant. And we're calling these rabbis that, like, we don't know, like, we're just normal Baltimore people. Like, what is happening? We are calling like the top rabbi of medical blah 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 blah. So basically, that is what happened. We got in touch with um, a rabbi who is basically the religious guidance support at Shari Tzedek Hospital in Jerusalem, who deals with these like potentially life-threatening situations for the mother, for the baby. Even it's not even necessarily like life-threatening for the mom, but if the baby is going to suffer tremendously from a health condition, you know, there are reasons to terminate. I actually know people personally that have had to go through that. Um, we don't we don't believe in suffering for no reason if it's not going to be um if it yeah, we just don't believe in it. With that said, it's very tricky, and there are a lot of like it's a fine line. So that's why I went and got this guidance. This is why genetic testing in like the Jewish culture is very important, because if you know you carry certain genes, and let's say oh what's forgot what it's called. Like a lot of mucus. I forgot what it's
Cystic
called.
fibrosis.
Yeah, that is a popular one in the Ashkenaz Jewish
Hmm.
um, community. So if two people are carriers for that, they'll often be guided to do IVF.
Mm.
So that way they don't get into a situation where the baby definitely has it or something, or you could test that particular embryo and find out. It's all very
Okay.
new age to me, and I don't know a lot about it. But for myself, I called this rabbi and I'm telling him my story. I'm telling him my experience and what I went through. And he basically said to me, you know, this is not clear cut, because preeclampsia and eclampsia can really be navigated with a doctor that is competent. It sounds like you had a bad doctor. This is the first time that I've heard that from somebody of authority.
Hmm.
Doctors won't throw shade, at other doctors.
And at
So
this
it's just
point, were you
me.
and your husband feeling like, yeah, I had a bad doctor, or was that kind of
I
like
could
the
not
light
stop
bulb?
crying. I couldn't, I just, when I heard him say it, I was like, finally, like someone
It
sees
confirmed kind of
what I
what you're
went through.
feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, thank you for just even validating that.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I work in hospital, like that's what I do. You know, you need a high risk doctor. But even that said, preeclampsia can really be prevented. I mean, not prevented, but it can be addressed
Right.
much better than what we went through.
Hmm.
So that's the first thing. But he did say with my injury, he said it is questionable because, you know, you cannot have another vaginal delivery right now. And okay, great. We could, you know, you could get a scheduled C-section, but sometimes things happen and then the baby will come when they're ready and you never know.
Right.
So, so he basically said it's really your choice. Um, it's not like you have to, that I think that you could be in a situation that you're causing it's like causing danger to your family because a mother's health is more important than a potential baby. You already have a baby, you already have a husband, like you have a family that needs you. So it's really your choice. So I just thought with this, and honestly, just hearing all of that was like all I needed to kind of say, okay, let me first find a high risk doctor that understands everything and I'm not in a rush. He also told me like you know, I was only I literally just took a test. So I was 4 to 5 weeks pregnant. He
Hmm.
was like, you have a month to do some research. You know, you sooner the better, but like, you know, you can think this through. And so I found a doctor who basically looked at my chart, looked at everything, and almost made it seem like what I went through. Well, he definitely made it seem like what I went through wasn't me. It wasn't like I can't have babies and
Right.
like something's wrong with me. He's like, preeclampsia, this happens 20% of the time, unfortunately, 10 to 20% of the time. Like, we'll take care of you. Like, we can take care of this. And then he said the same thing, like your injury, well, let's just have a C-section. We can do this. And literally, like, I mean, I had great care from him. I told him I'm going to need to be checked in like way more than an average person. Like, even though I might not even be high risk this time, like, I just need that extra assurance. And so
Right.
he's like, that's fine. We can do that. So I was basically there like at least once, if not twice a month in that doctor's office, just like, can you make sure my blood pressure is okay? Can you do this? Can you do that?
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so with that said, my postpartum experience with my second was very, very different. Um, she she was born the day before her due date. And I don't really remember much of it because I definitely needed some anxiety medication. Um, but you know, I was just so much more well versed in my own body. Like I just knew what I needed more, and I also knew like just say what you need and say what you want and don't take anything for an answer unless that like you know so a nurse came in and said oh like you should put clothes on her and meanwhile she was perfectly swaddled and warm. I'm like no like I'm like really hot in here and she's on me all the time. You know, I wanted that skin to skin. I didn't get to bond with my first like that, so I just did what I needed. And yeah, so what else can I add? With my second, I did notice though that I just couldn't sleep. I've never had that level of like, it wasn't just anxiety, it was like my body just could not sleep. So I called my mom and I told her what was going on. And we know that there's some serious postpartum hormonal, I would say, mental health issues in our family. My biological grandmother had postpartum psychosis.
Wow.
So she didn't raise my mom. So I'm just already like something's happening to me, like come over.
Mhm.
And and so, we talked and she was, and she said, like, you seem manic. Like something seems a little manic. We're gonna figure this out. First things first, you're getting in the shower, taking a bath. Let's just see if like melatonin, let's just relax you and like I'll sleep over. And I slept and I did feel better. But right away I caught a psychiatrist and I got evaluated. And it's interesting things that you learn that serious sleep deprivation can bring on mania. And you really have to, it can bring on everything, right? Like,
Yeah.
um,
Right. Yeah.
but if you're slightly predisposed to any kind of hormonal, mental health, mood disorder, anything, you need to sleep, because if you don't sleep, it will fester and it will come up, even if you never thought you had any issues.
Yeah. Sleep is
And
like, sleep is the key. If you're not sleeping, anything is worse. Everything is worse.
yeah,
And you've got, you had all the anxiety beforehand. Now you're, soon after adjusting to being a family of three, you're adjusting to being a family of four,
yeah,
and not to mention healing from this birth as well. And this second birth was a cesarean,
yeah,
and it was scheduled for the day before your due date.
yes.
That's
That was,
interesting that they let you go so
yeah.
long.
Right. It wasn't supposed to be. So basically, my daughter was showing signs of IUGR, which is a symptom that could be very much connected to, or a condition, but it could be connected to preeclampsia. And she was falling off the curve. I was scheduled for November 18th, and which is a Friday. And my doctor was so excited because he was going away for Thanksgiving, and it's just him in this practice. So he's like, I need to be the one to take care of you. Like, I'm so relieved. This is going to be great. I'll do your C-section and then I'll go on vacation. And I'm like, okay, you know, it's just like
Yeah.
another day at work, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so the day before, he just wanted to do a quick ultrasound, make sure baby was doing well. And the ultrasound technician did a growth scan, which I don't know if she was or wasn't supposed to do, or if there was some kind of miscommunication. But I come back into the office and he looks at the results and he's just like, I can't do the C-section tomorrow. What are you doing? What are you doing? What's happening? And he just
Yeah.
walks in the room. So I'm
Excuse
like,
me.
"Jody, what's happening?" Like,
Somebody give me
Sir.
details over here.
Excuse me. Yeah, sir.
Do I get off the table now or?
Yeah. I put
I'm
my
like,
pants back on or no? Yeah.
you have to know who he is, because he's a savant. He is so good at his job, but his
Yeah.
bedside manner is just like,
Yeah. I see his brain went somewhere else and his
he
body
just went
followed
somewhere
Yeah.
else,
without
and
telling you
I'm
what was
just sitting here on the
happening.
table.
And he's like, she knows, she trusts me. Just, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like, no, I don't though. So
Yeah. I'm panicking.
I told you I'm experienced, sir.
Yeah. This is the
so
second
I
thing I
yell at
said
my
to you
husband,
when I
go
started here.
follow him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I told him, I said, go follow him, find out what's
Mhm.
going on. What do you mean we're not having a C-section? Like,
Yeah.
what's happening with my baby?
Yeah.
So Dr. Pleater comes into the room and he's just like, she grew a lot. And I have no reason medically to do a C-section before 39 weeks. You're perfectly healthy. Your baby's perfectly healthy. And I'm just sitting there like, really? Like, I'm okay. Everything's okay. And he said, like, look, anything can happen with your first. It happened overnight. I'm not saying that, but right now you are perfectly healthy and you're at 38 weeks, which means we can't do a C-section tomorrow. So I'm like, okay. Or it was like 38 and 2 days or something. And meanwhile, he was going away that Friday for a full week. So I am freaking out
Yeah.
because
Just a little bit,
I
just
can't
casually
have this.
panicking.
Yeah. I'm like, that's great. I'm healthy. Can we pretend I'm not? Like, is
Yeah.
there a way to like
Yeah.
still
Can we
do this?
mix those results up with someone else's? Can we do that?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, doesn't my pelvis mean I'm
Yeah.
not healthy? I was just like, what is
Yeah.
going
Because my pulse feels pretty rapid right now. So can we get
Let me
another
get my
BP
blood pressure
reading?
cuff real quick.
Yeah.
on? I'm sweating over here.
Yeah.
So, So he was so happy for me, but also like we need to come up with a game plan
Yeah.
fast, just in case. So fortunately, he really took care of me again. He got me in touch with the laborist that's at the hospital. They used to work together. We came up with the birth plan. I spoke to the anesthesiologist on the phone. I told him that I had an allergic reaction the first time with an
Ugh,
epidural
of
to
course.
morphine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And he assured me like you're not getting morphine and you are going to get a different drug altogether that should really work. And he just assured me like, look, Jenny, if for some reason you are one of those people that is that sensitive to certain medication, you're not going to suffer on that. You're no, we'll just put you in twilight or put you in it, like we'll put you to sleep for a little bit and then and you'll meet your baby, but you're not going to feel pain. That was my one thing. I just couldn't handle it. I like still have residual pain from my first that I just, especially then, that I was just like, I can't think about that.
Yeah.
So it really was awesome. I had some contractions and then they went away. I went in and got checked and it was like, you're fine. You are having contractions, but like, you're fine. Go get in a bath. Let's see if you could just relax. And the doctor, or my OB was like, stay in bed until
Mm.
I get back, you know? But he
Mhm.
called me while he was on vacation.
Oh, that's
And
amazing.
I just give so much credit because it's so hard being an OB right now. They have so much on their plate with just way too many patients. Unfortunately, the medical system for maternal care is just not good. Whatever. It could be better. Could be a
Yeah.
lot better. I'll say it like that.
Right.
And yeah, I made it. And it was originally supposed to be scheduled at exactly 40 weeks because that was the earliest he could do it. And then while I was getting my pre-ops, which was the day before or a day and a half before, yeah, it was a day and a half before. While I'm there getting it done, there's a call from him, which I didn't know at the time, saying, hey, can we squeeze somebody in for tomorrow? It looks like XYZ patient had their baby early. And I was right there in the room. I heard my name. I heard everything. I'm like, I don't
Mm.
think this is how it's supposed to go.
Mm.
I'm like, sure, whatever, I'll take that. So I went a day early and he just always really reassured me. And even after with my postpartum visit, my C-section, incision visit, and then my 6-week postpartum visit. And then he actually wanted me to come back for like I would call it like a 10 to 12 week postpartum visit because he knew that I, have some mental health stuff.
Mhm.
And I came in and I just talked to him and it wasn't even, I didn't even have to get undressed. He was like, just come into my office. I just want to check in on you. I
Mhm.
was like, okay. So we're talking and he's just like, I already know you're going to want more kids because I can tell that that was such a positive experience for you.
Mhm.
And even though it was hard, you're going to want more. You can do it. Like you are totally capable. And if you need to have C-sections every time, you will. And if you wanted to try again of having a VBAC, I'll take care of you. But like you can do it. You need the right doctor and you need the right support. So he just checked in. He was like, have you gone to the orthopedist? Have you done, just making sure I'm on the right track. And that was just so helpful. And I did know what I needed. I mean, Leba was my lactation consultant.
Nice.
And with my first, I tried so hard to nurse and I just couldn't get a letdown. I had a terrible pump. I didn't even know about like proper nursing and pumping bras. I mean, I knew
Yeah.
about nursing bras, but I didn't know that there are different types of pumping bras
Yeah.
and that are more comfortable for you. And that Medela isn't always the best pump for everybody.
Yeah.
And, all of these things that like I just wasn't in the headspace to even do it. And
Yeah.
Leva really helped me too. She said, Jenny, like if you went through what you went through, which obviously you did, if I had a client that said the exact same thing of what they went through, and they came to me wanting to nurse their baby, I would say, that's really noble of you, but you need to heal. So even though you didn't get that opportunity, like even if everything was working perfectly, like your body needed to recover. Like
Yeah.
nursing takes a toll
A
physically,
huge toll.
yeah, physically, mentally, emotionally, all of the
Yeah.
things. She was like, you can't do that right now.
It's exhausting.
It's
And you're
exhausting.
right. You're doing it on top of recovering and then not sleeping again and adjusting to a new,
Yeah.
family life. It's a lot.
Yeah, it was too much. So with my nursing experience with my second was very like, I don't know, redemptive. I don't know what the right word is, but I felt like I got to experience that bond. And because the age gap was so small, like 17 months,
Mhm.
Orly, my oldest, got to see it. And, at first I thought she was going to be so jealous, but she would just snuggle up next to me and watch and just like participated sort of. I mean, she wasn't nursing because she was kind of outgrown that, but
Mhm.
she thinks she nursed. Like she does. Like
That's
she
cute.
understands that, like, when she plays with stuffed animals, she nurses her babies.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it just, yeah, it was really healthy for me to try again. I never was able to get, a huge supply or anything like that, but Leva really helped me understand just do what you can. And
Yeah.
that's what I did. And I got to have that bond. Um,
Is there anything like, so nursing was more positive your second time, and it sounds like you had a much more positive birth experience the second time. And do you think like, kind of that birth experience and having some more positive interaction with nursing really helped you have a better postpartum the second time?
yeah, 100%, 100%. I just, I've always wanted that. Like, I think some moms or some women don't necessarily think about, they want to have babies, but they're not all like thinking about pregnancy, birth, nursing.
Right.
Like, I'm the oldest in my family. I have a lot of cousins, a lot of, nieces and nephews, and I just, I was just always fascinated by it at even like a younger age. So for me, the thought that I couldn't was like very jarring. Some
Yeah.
people can't. I just, some people get this sick, even though I knew that, it felt further from me. It felt like
Yeah.
I've taken all these birth courses. I have a
Right.
doula.
Right.
I am so invested in birth. I love
Right.
birth. It's so fascinating to me. And
Right.
postpartum care and support, like my biggest fear, like, about pregnancy, labor and delivery and postpartum was postpartum depression or postpartum bipolar disorder. Like those are my biggest concerns even before I had my first. I felt like I know so much, but I knew nothing in
Yeah.
reality. Like,
Until you experience it, it's a completely different,
yeah,
completely different.
completely different. And I just really set myself up with what I could financially with my second.
Mhm.
Um, so I made sure that my oldest had full-time support. I made sure that I didn't have to do anything except for sleep when the baby slept, feed the baby,
Right.
shower, eat when someone puts it near me. I wasn't cooking anything for like I want to say like 3 weeks.
That's awesome.
I
Yeah.
just like there was just no way, and I didn't want overnight help. That was just
Okay.
something I
Yeah.
didn't want.
I was
Um,
the same way. I was the
yeah,
same way. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like a control thing or what it was. I was like,
I
no, no, no,
just
I
don't
got
want
it.
people in my space.
Yeah,
Like I
Yeah, right. And you're
don't
asleep, or you're supposed to
yeah.
be asleep, and like some
Yeah, and
strangers
like
in your
I'm
house.
not gonna
We
sleep
we
while
had,
I'm sitting
what was
there.
it? One person, someone was standing over the baby and she woke up
Oh,
like
yeah,
I just
That's
like don't
crazy.
want that.
Yeah, no, all I want is like either way, I'm not gonna sleep if you come over and I spend $250 on you for a night. So
Right. I'd rather save that.
it's just
Yeah.
not gonna it's just not worth it. So I'd rather save that money to make sure that like I don't need to pay for food, like making
Right.
food, and I can or extra cleaning help and
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
childcare. Like that was what I needed so then I could take care of my baby.
Yeah.
But
I
I
mean, I think
think,
that's great. It's all about finding the priorities that work for you and your family.
Right.
yeah. Yeah,
And
and I think like after everything and becoming a doula myself and just like everything I've learned, um, it sounds weird to say, but like I wouldn't change it. I've kind of gotten to that point that while I wish that I was validated by my OB. I think that that's like the biggest thing.
Yeah.
The knowledge that I've gotten and the level of empathy that I can like have with certain clients that have suffered from birth trauma, and now they are hiring a doula or they're hiring me.
Mhm.
Like I get like you don't have to explain anything.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's so hard to explain. Like you can't explain
Right.
why you're being neurotic, and you could try and everyone will say like, of course it makes sense, but like I feel it in my bones.
Yeah.
I know because I was there.
Yeah.
And
Right.
yeah, so it feels like, okay, well, at least I can help people.
Right. And one thing I really want to quickly mention is that you talking about when you got pregnant with your second and kind of, can I do this? And kind of going to the rabbi. I think that that thought is actually more common than we like to admit. And I like
Yeah.
really appreciate you being open to talk about that, because I have friends, you know, that are behind closed doors, like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. What am I going to do? Like, can I handle a second one? You know, and that's just, I mean, I really appreciate that you were able to tell us that part. I think that's more common again than we think.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the most significant part of that postpartum journey, which
Yeah.
sounds so funny because I'm pregnant, but I was 6 months postpartum too.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the right time. I mean, and I think it's funny when people say, but it was all meant to be. Like, no, it was not the right time. Like, I can accept that it happened anyway. That's fine, but it wasn't the right time for me.
Right.
And I think when people hear it from somebody that's like, seems religious or seems like that'd be so against their values, you're like, oh, I'm allowed to just feel that and process it. 90% of the time, once they feel it and process it, they want to continue with that pregnancy. It's
Right.
just giving them the space to have a choice.
Thank you for listening to Postpartum Unfiltered.
If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, comment, or leave a review.
You can follow us on Instagram at postpartum.unfiltered.
If you feel called to share your postpartum experience, please contact us on Instagram or at drjilliancampbell.com.